Hi everybody, this is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois workNet, and today we are doing a technical assistance session for Apprenticeship Illinois, and welcome to the webinar. I'm going to turn my camera off now so that everybody can see the full screen without my mug in the middle upper right hand corner of it the whole time. So talk to you in a bit. All right. So just in case, we went over how to rename yourself on your webinar listing for the participants, and we reviewed how to ask a question. If you want to, you can either raise your hand or type your message into the chat. You are also able to, I believe, just unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. I'm happy to answer your questions as we go. I will try to keep an eye on the chat. Natasha does happen to be on the call with me, and Jonathan too, I believe. So if you guys can keep an eye on the chat for me, if I happen to miss something, that would be super duper fabulous. We've got Apprenticeship Illinois. We've got the partner page, and that is right here. I'm going to copy that and put it in the chat for you. And we have that available as a resource for you so that you can come here and see all of the resources, the written directions, the videos, the process flow, all of those sorts of things are all housed on this web page. We also have a link right here for you to get to the Customer Support Center. So if you are going here, it should give you a spot, and I'm trying to get there. It should take you to a page that will land you on the groups for Apprenticeship Illinois. And depending upon your organization and how many groups you have access to, those will all show up in this list. So if you do need to do a search, all you have to do is type appropriately apprenticeship and hit search, and then it would be Apprenticeship Illinois is the group that you would want to select, or your particular organization. You may or may not have access to more than one group on here. So that's how you get there live. And if you are looking to access it the long way, you can go from your Illinois workNet account on your own profile and go to Partner Tools, or from the drop down, you can go to Partner Tools and go to the Customer Support Center this way. So there's all kinds of ways that you can get to the partner tools to access the groups. Now let me minimize this. Let me show you a couple more features on this page, and then we'll get to the work of the day. So what we did, we listened to your process. We listened to your suggestions on the last inaugural session that we had, and we wanted to show you that we listened and that we took things to heart, and we tried to make things as simple as possible. So we have some, okay, Lee, if you want to send me an email, let me put my email address in here. I will make sure that you get added to your group. I had an initial list, and that's who I added to the accounts for everything. So if you just checked and you do not have any groups showing, please send me an email and I will get you added as a user for your group. And that's applicable to anyone else in your organization that might be working with the Apprenticeship Illinois program. Same thing for you, Craig. If you don't have that, please send me an email. So anybody on the call, if you do not have access to those groups, then please send me an email. I will verify that you are part of the system. All right. Additionally, oh, I hear the emails coming in already. So additionally, on this front page, we have an event calendar. It has the dates and what we're planning on talking about. If we don't have a plan yet, it will just say technical assistance. The link to join the webinar is right here. Click join now, and that will take you to the appropriate link for the webinar. Just in the event that I'm not working with Apprenticeship Illinois any longer, I've been moved on to another project, then somebody else's Zoom link would be there. So you just got to come here, click the link, get to the right Zoom meeting. Okay, for quick start guides, we have this icon right here, the very first one. It has quick start guides, and you can pick the process for what your grant or what your agency is going to be doing primarily. Or maybe if you're doing a multiple thing, you can pick on more than one. So we have Apprenticeship Illinois Case Management Customer. That's just the case management. If we click on this link, it will show you the simple 5-step process. So it's adding customers into Illinois workNet. If you want to know all the details, you can click on the detailed instructions for adding a customer. You are welcome to watch the video here. We have then complete the application with the customer. The full detailed instructions are right here, and then the video is right here. You need to complete the customer eligibility. The full details are right here. The video is right here. And then you would need to create a career plan or an individual employment plan, whatever you guys want to call it. And then the details here, the video, and then submit quarterly reports. We'll have those directions there as soon as we have that reporting process completed. Now, if we want to go back and look at case management and WIOA services, we can add that here. It's the same process flow. The only real difference is once the customer has been determined eligible for a possible WIOA co-enrollment, you would need to make the referral for that co-enrollment to someone in the IWDS system through the local workforce agency. Then we have OII, other impacted individuals. That's a super simple process. It's either an upload of a spreadsheet or an input of a single customer, and then submit the quarterly reports. And then last but not least, we have incumbent workers. And incumbent workers are also considered other impacted individuals, but because of their incumbency status, they will need to be entered through the IWTS system. And we had that training yesterday. So those participants will need to be entered in IWTS. You can watch that video yet tomorrow at your convenience, and then we have the detailed directions takes you to the IWTS guide. And then all you have to do is check to make sure that your customers are reporting for your quarterly reports. So that's a super simple process as well. Once we are back into the system, we have all of our trainings, our TA sessions, and our webinars will be listed here. As you can see, I have yesterday's listed. We'll have today's listed with the link to the recording. Once I get that posted to our YouTube channel, you'll see that here. And then we keep all of them on this page. The full list of resources has all of the directions here, the full length directions: user management, otherwise impacted individuals flow, anything that you need to see. All of the eligibility documentation is all here. We have the link to the tutorial videos. So all the details are on this page. And then last but not least, we have partner tool updates. Since we're just launching, we don't have updates right now, but when we do, if something seems like it's different, then you can come here to see what the latest update is, and you can make sure that you go back and check those instructions, because we will keep the most current version of the instructions on this full list of resources. That's why we keep them in our SharePoint files, so that if we have any updates that need to go any place besides one place, they're updated everywhere. So let me close a few tabs here, and we will get started with our demonstration. Any questions about the guide right now? All right, so now when we land on our groups page for the Apprenticeship Illinois program, I'm in test right now, and just to warn you, test is a test lot. It's a test platform, and every once in a while something isn't going right, but we are trying to make sure that everything is working properly today for this demonstration. So as you can see, I've got 6 or 8 groups right here of programs that this trainee has access to. So I click on this group and I land on this page. You can search for a customer on this page. So if you want to look for somebody specific, you can do that. If you know their Illinois workNet number, their 6-digit workNet ID, you can enter that and look for them. I actually happen to have access to 2 intermediaries on this account, and so I can pick which intermediary I want to look for. So you can click on a person's last name to see their profile. What we want to talk about right now is adding customers, because that's the important piece here. Is these customers are recruited and added by you, and so we want to talk about adding customers. So we'll go over here to the right hand side, click on the Add Customer button. This information excuse me, is entered so that we can track who is coming into the system and create an Illinois workNet account for them. So I'm going to add Mary Smith, and her date of birth is going to be, we'll do July 10th. We're going to enter her email address. And confirm it. And enter a social security number. And that is going to be and you need to confirm it. And the intermediary you're going to select, and what zip code. And then you're going to search to see if there's an existing customer in the Illinois workNet database. There is not one, and so we have created an account for this customer. If you want to write this down and have reference for it for a later point in time for that customer, you can do that. We have 3 options here. You can send them the initial application, you can complete the initial application with them, or you can add the next customer. Today, for this demonstration, we are going to complete the initial application with the customer right now. So that means they might be sitting right there at your desk with you. So you enter them, you complete the initial application, and we streamlined this process because you asked us to do that, and so we took that to heart and did that for you. They still have to agree to the terms, and then they can start the new application. All of the pieces on this page are to help determine eligibility. So under education, we have 3 options. Physical health, we have a couple. Under family, we have a couple. Some financial items, SNAP, TANF, SSI. I live in a high poverty area. Criminal charges, housing, employment related. All of these items help determine what sort of eligibility they will qualify for in the end run. So I'm going to mark, I lost my last job because of plant closure or a large company layoff. I'm going to put that myself or someone in my family receive SSI. And that's all I'm going to put on here. But you do want to have a conversation to make sure that you select every option that they might have. And then I'm going to save and go to next page. Highest level of education. Where do they fall in here? It goes up to other post-secondary degree or certificate of attendance, master's, bachelor's, associates. I'm going to say that this customer has a college freshman. Save and go to next page. What is your current employment status? There's one of 5 options. And it says, I have not worked before. This will be my first job. Oops. I am employed, but I have received a notice of termination or layoff. I am unemployed and I have been actively looking for work. I am unemployed, but I have not been actively looking for work. I'm going to do that I have been. Now, if the customer has had employment, they will be required to enter, or you will be required to enter at least 1 employment. So at least 1 employment is required. So we're going to add this and we're going to say, I think I just spelled that wrong. And put a start date in. I'm going to pick a year first. And an end date. Job title. The street address is optional, but we do want the city. So we're going to say Peoria, Illinois, and I don't know Peoria's zip code. I'm going to make one up. Hourly wage paid is what we want to know here. So they were making $25 an hour. Helps if I put zeros instead of O's. Job duties. Hours per week. Reason for leaving. Plant shut down. Was this your primary employment? Yes, it was. Were you self-employed? No, I was not. Save. So if you want to add more, you can, but you have met the requirement of the application. Save and go to next page. This is contact information. It is automatically filled by information that you entered when you invited the customer for the program. So we do need to fill in street address, and I cheat and put what the social security number was in there. And we're going to do Springfield and Illinois. And I don't know if these match here with the zip code. What kind of phone is it? Alternate phones are optional. Social media is optional. Gender at birth, female. This is optional. Date of birth, military status, marital status, and we'll say married. If this is a male over the age of 18, it will ask about selective service. And then you will need to answer that question, but I added as female here. Are you authorized to work in the US? Yes. and then submit application. Then you can go immediately to verifying eligibility. So we did step 1 here. We completed the initial application. If you need to go back in and edit anything, you can do it here. If you need to send the link off to somebody that you had initially sent the link off to, you can do that from this button. But we're going to verify eligibility. So now we do need to, and I need to grab a screenshot of this here real quick. To complete the eligibility, it will take you to a new screen. So once you are done with the eligibility and you come back to the screen, you need to refresh so that it shows what you did with the eligibility. And before you enroll a customer, you do need to obtain a signed eligibility form by the participant and the career planner. And if you are doing this like we are right now through Zoom, there is an option for that, but it's on that form so that it gives you the details there. We'll cover that when we get there. I'm going to click this complete program eligibility button. And up at the top, we have the different sections that you'll need to go through to determine their eligibility. There is folder organizer sheets that you can use for the paper files. Then we want to go down and click the Start Eligibility Determination. If you need to make any changes to the application, you can click on this button to update any of the customer responses. So for example, the customer did it on their own and they didn't quite understand something and you're going through the eligibility. They're right there with you when you're going through the eligibility. You can have that conversation and then update things as you need to. Each item has a drop-down list that meshes directly with IWDS documentation that can be used for determining eligibility. I made up a new word with that, determining. So we're going to use a driver's license here. We're going to use a birth certificate here. We're going to use the Social Security card. And then we have to enter the Social Security number. Gender at birth does not need verification. Authorized to work in the United States needs verification. We're going to do birth certificate with place of birth. Then you need to save and go to next tab. If you don't want to save your changes, you can save and return later, but we are going to save and go to next tab. Again, this button is on every page. If there are no check marks, if you don't see the grayed out little box right here and a red asterisk, that means that you can just move on to the next page. All of these pieces are part of WIOA eligibility verification. Save and go to next tab. This does not mean that they can be enrolled in IWDS at this point. We're just using those as determining factors. Save and go to next tab because there's nothing checked on this page. Now we have a check mark here. Myself or someone in my immediate family receives SSI. We have an asterisk here. So we're going to get a copy of the public assistance check. And then we also have down here, I want to just explain this. I live in a high poverty area. We can go out to a census check. We may meet low income guidelines. We have different things that they need to check here. If that one is checked, we have definition. If it's not checked, these won't be live. This is an annual family income, and on this box, we do have a list of exclusions that you can click on. But right now we did verify the one piece that was checked on this page. Save and go to next tab. There is one item checked on this page, and it says I lost my job because of plant closure. So we're going to click on the dislocation. Event tracking system shows a layoff due to plant closure. And then down here we have the dislocation job. This helps determine whether or not the customer qualifies for, would potentially qualify for 1D, for the dislocated worker for WIOA. So we do need to add a NACE code. This is only 6 digits that are available. So we put in a keyword to look. We pick a category, search. I'm going to select that. Uh-oh. Well, let's try a different manufacturing. Oh, that's right. We only want 6 digits. So we're going to look for a 6-digit. Jonathan, can you make a note about that? Select. We are going to add a SOC code. And this is manufacturing production technician. We're going to select that one. The layoff reason, we pick from a drop-down. And this was a plant closure. Save. Save and go to next tab. There is nothing checked on this page, so we need to save and go to next tab. We're at the end. So we have, thank you for completing program eligibility for Mary Smith. To continue, please click the button below to determine the customer's eligibility. So we click the button. It says, based upon the information submitted, Mary Smith is determined eligible for the Apprenticeship Illinois program benefits. The eligibility determinations may also meet requirements for participation in WIOA Title 1A and WIOA Title 1D. So we go back to view the eligibility. We do need to, excuse me, print the eligibility with signature lines. So as we click on that button, it brings up the page. It has the logo for the program. The career planner would sign it here and date it. The participant would sign it here and date it. We do understand that there may be some virtual things going on. So on here, when you provide, when your provider/career planner accepts your signature or takes documentation verbally, you must provide a follow-up email verifying the use of your signature and the information provided. The signed document is in the customer file for monitoring purposes. So they would, if they do this verbally, you would collect this document with at least the career planner signature on it, and then an email dated, hopefully the exact same day, would be attached to this document for monitoring. So I'm not going to print this right now. We can go back and edit the eligibility. If something came up that you didn't get the right eligibility, there was probably an answer that was not correct. And so you might want to go back and edit the eligibility. And then we're going to return to the intake review. Now I completed the eligibility, so I need to refresh my page. Go back to step 2. And it says this customer has been found eligible for the Apprenticeship Illinois program and may also be eligible for these other WIOA title options, WIOA Title 1A and 1D. When I look at the options, I have enroll this customer, eligibility is complete, not enrolled, eligibility not complete, not enrolled, not able to complete, customer declined to participate. If I click this option and click save, I get a new statement that says, before enrolling this customer, obtain a signed eligibility form by I'm sorry, this should say that I told you it was test. There is supposed to be a statement here that says I verify that I have a document in here. So Jonathan, please make a note about this too. All right, now, so that is the down and dirty, easy, simple application. Comments, questions, concerns? I think this might be confusing for some of the grantees who are not WIOA Title 1B providers. For WIOA eligibility and enrollment, most of this has to be completed in IWDS, and then the enrollment has to be certified. That is very correct. This is just showing that they may be eligible for WIOA titles. It does not mean that they are being enrolled in IWDS. That is a whole nother step. So if the customer is qualified and you are not a WIOA provider, then you would need to develop a relationship with that local WIOA agency in your area and find out if they would like to co-enroll that particular customer. David Jacob says, is there a job aid available to show, it moved on me. Is there a job aid available to show who's eligible for apprenticeship and who is not? Or is it just WIOA eligibility? As I understand it, and anybody else can jump in, Patty.
Yeah, hi, it's Patty. Good question. It's based on WIOA eligibility. So if they're eligible for WIOA adult, dislocated worker, or youth, they would be qualified as Apprenticeship Illinois eligible. The statements there that say this person may also be qualified for the WIOA, what it's doing is, because you answered those questions and the barriers and the information in there is identical to what's in IWDS's logic for going in and applying and using IWDS to see if somebody's eligible for adult, dislocated worker, or youth. It's kind of going through that information and the background and then saying, when I got done with this, I am eligible for Apprenticeship Illinois. And those are in there more as a courtesy to say they're probably also eligible for Title I adult or youth or dislocated worker based on the information you just put in there. So yes, then if you are already a Title I funder and grantee, you can go into IWDS and enter the information in there and get them enrolled in Title I. And Jim's gonna be, he's on board, I think, to show us how that looks in IWDS.
So David asked a follow-up question. So if they're not WIOA eligible, they're not Apprenticeship Illinois eligible, just want to be clear.
Correct. For the full participant, remember there's a full participant is what we're showing here for Apprenticeship Illinois. If they're an incumbent worker, like what we were talking about earlier, that's still touched by Apprenticeship Illinois, but they wouldn't be considered a full participant.
Okay. All right. And I just refreshed my page and it says right here, I verify that I have an Apprenticeship Illinois eligibility form signed and dated by the participant and career planner. The signed document is in the customer file for monitoring purposes. So I just had to refresh to get the customer to say enrolled and this. All right. So now since Patty mentioned Jim being on the call for the WIOA stuff, let's jump into this. And Jim, if you want to unmute yourself.
I have unmuted myself.
Just tell me when to go next.
I'm ready next. Well, go ahead. Everybody, my name is Jim Potts. I work for Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. My primary responsibility is WIOA eligibility, as well as the Illinois Workforce Development System, answering any questions, helping with applications and the processes of enrolling in services and the different items associated with IWDS. A couple of things I do want to pass on. I've seen the question about if you're not eligible for WIOA, you wouldn't be eligible for Apprenticeship Illinois. Do keep in mind, for somebody that's 18 years old, as long as they're authorized to work in the United States, and if they're a guy, they're compliant with selective service, and if they're a woman, the selective service is not an application or not an eligibility criteria, they're going to be eligible under the adult title. So just about every single person is going to be at a minimum eligible under the adult title. Again, the exception would be a guy who's not compliant with selective service. So I think you're going to find most people are eligible. Those that are under 18, if they do meet the eligibility for the youth title, they would be eligible. We also do want to capture that information about the dislocated worker just to make sure we have a full understanding of the client's demographics and of what their situation is. So I think you're going to find almost everybody is going to be eligible for some WIOA program. Now, the objective of this particular PowerPoint we're going to go over is to demonstrate the details for updating an IWDS record for an individual who is already a WIOA registrant who is going to participate in the Apprenticeship Illinois program. So the client would be co-enrolled. Next slide, Dee. Or can I drive?
I backed up a little bit too far from my desktop.
If I can drive, that'd be fine too. So when you complete the application in workNet, the client you're planning to co-enroll should end up showing up as the same eligibility title, meaning if your client's already certified in IWDS as a dislocated worker, he or she should show up that same way in workNet. Same with the adults, same with youth clients. If the current WIOA registrant was getting services under a WIOA Title I, and now those services are going to be switched to the WIOA apprenticeship. And a good example, and that's what's going to be shown in this, is a client who's already in an apprenticeship program that's been funded under WIOA Title I. And now we're going to change the funding over to the apprenticeship expansion. So that's what this is going to kind of demonstrate. So next slide. So a few things about this PowerPoint. It's built in our training platform of Illinois Workforce Development System. It's an exact duplicate of production IWDS. It's a great place to learn if you have staff that are wanting to become familiar with IWDS. The training platform's a good way to get in there and play around. You can't break nothing. I do a lot of training on the Illinois Workforce Development System. It's a little more difficult since we don't have the computer lab, but I have done a virtual class. For this particular training setup, it's set up under under Local Workforce Innovation Area 20, which is here in Springfield, because that's where our mock grants and the different mock provider relationships. So when you notice it says LWIA 20, it would be tailored in real life to whichever local workforce area a person has their IWDS account in. So next slide, please. So the first thing you would do, because again, this is a client who's already in IWDS as a current registrant. So the particular client, you'd find the client. So go ahead, next slide, Dee. And on this client, this is an application menu. What I'm demonstrating again is this client is currently receiving services under WIOA. And so go ahead and click under next slide, which is going to show us the different services the client's currently in. Since the client is going to be enrolled in the Registered Apprenticeship Program with funding by the Apprenticeship Expansion, a few things must take place. The client's individual employment plan, the IEP, should be updated to reflect the change in funding of the apprenticeship training, including the details of the effective dates. And then the updated IEP should address any changes of the overall goal, objectives, and services. So next slide. So here's an example of mock client services. So we're going to go ahead and click in to this development of an IEP service. So do that for me, Dee. Next slide. And when the original development of an IEP is brought up, when you click on that at the bottom, you're going to see an add additional episodes. So next slide, please. And that's down at the bottom. So click on next slide, please. Now on this, when a service is already recorded in IWDS and it's a same-day service, which is what a development of an IEP is, when you add an additional episode, all it is you go in and you update the case note for that episode, and then when you save it, it ends up changing the end date of that service to reflect the date of the case note. So in this case, I'd updated the contact date of 8/17/20, and I spoke about the registered apprentice was going to be picked up under Lincoln Land and gave some background information. So I hit save and return. So next slide, please. And you'll notice that the end date of that service development IEP changed to reflect that ending case note. Next slide, please. Now, since the funding of the service of the registered apprentice is no longer going to be funded under the WIOA Title I grant, so that service needed to be closed out in the IWDS record. So next slide, please. So in this case, again, it's currently since 1/10/20, it has been funded under Title I, and now it's no longer going to be funded under Title I. We'd want to go into the actual service. So next slide. And in this next slide, what we're going to do is we're going to close that service, that registered apprentice service, effective 8/17/20. And as long as the client's successfully going through the program, which it would be since he's moving on to a different funding stream, it would be a successful completion of the service. So next slide, please. So there's the end date. So on there would be 8/17/20, and we'd want to change that from open to successful. Next slide. And that's just demonstrating that in the next slide. So there it shows the various services are now all closed. Now, if there were any other services that were being provided under WIOA Title I grant that were no longer being provided, those should also be closed. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes maybe you're going to have your supportive services funded under the apprenticeship grant. So maybe you had an open supportive service. So if that was the case, you'd want to close that. One of the key things when you are co-enrolling a client under WIOA as well as the apprenticeship expansion is making sure you really have it clear in your IEP what services is going to be funded by which grant. Your IWDS screen should only be indicating the services that are going to be funded under WIOA, with the exception of what we're going to demonstrate next. So the next slide, please. Since this, as I mentioned, the services of the apprenticeship is going to be under the expansion grant, what we have is a service in IWDS called training paid by a non-WIOA Title I funds. So we would want that, it's almost like a placeholder. It would be in IWDS showing that this individual is getting training, but it's by somebody else. So next slide. So in that case, here is a services screen, and you'll see the activity is training paid by non-WIOA. Next slide. On this case, it has the ability to use the drop-down on non-Title I funding. In this case, we've added in apprenticeship expansion, and that would be the correct choice. If one of those choices from that previous slide weren't there, that's when we could use the other funding sources, but again, that wouldn't be applicable for this program. On this, we would leave it open. We wouldn't close it because the client's going to be continuing in the apprenticeship expansion paid program. So this service would stay open until the client completed that service through apprenticeship expansion, or let's say it's a longer program and maybe the apprenticeship expansion is only going to fund a year of it, and then next year it closes out for the apprenticeship expansion. If that's the case, we would close this service, and then WIOA could regain or resume providing the apprenticeship service if that was the case. Again, you'd always want your IWDS record for this co-enrolled client to be accurate to what you are funding. With the one exception, we do want you to record this training paid by non-WIOA just as a good way to demonstrate what's going on with the client. Next slide. And here's an example of that completed screen. Next slide. To remain a WIOA registrant, a client must continue to receive at least one WIOA funded service every 90 days. For this example client, based on the updated individual employment plan, the service of career planning, case management, and any supportive services the client will need while enrolled in the WIO Apprenticeship Expansion Grant will be funded under Title I. So that's the plan. The plan is, hey, we're going to use Apprenticeship Expansion to fund the actual training, but our WIO Title I is going to take care of case management / career planning. It's going to also take care of any supportive services the client might have. Now keep in mind, it's not required for a co-enrolled client to have supportive services, because your grant could be taking care of the supportive services itself, your expansion grants. But I'm just telling you a possibility of what you could. So again, anything you're wanting to fund under WIO Title I, those services would match up to what you're doing. Your plan, your individual employment plan should explain these things also. So, and lastly on that, make sure, as I mentioned earlier, if you have any services that are no longer being provided under your WIO Title I, make sure to close those out. And one of the things, and this is just more of a housekeeping, in the recent past we have updated services in IWDS, and we've merged the service of case management into career planning. So how the service looks in IWDS now, it states career planning, and in parentheses it says case management. Anytime case management or career planning / case management is provided, it's on there as an initial service, and then each time you're going to add a new episode when you're going to do another element or another episode of that. And that's what this next slide is going to demonstrate, the next few slides. So next slide, D. So as I mentioned, click on the original case management, then you just, or career planning case management, add another episode, next screen. You put in the case note. I dated 8/18/2020, gave a word picture of the actual what went on for my case management, and then hit save and return. Next slide. And then you'll notice the end date of the case management changed to reflect that date. So then while this individual is going through training, at a minimum once every 90 days, the WIOA service provider would want to go in and tell what's going on with the client and give an update to his or her status while they're in the training program. Again, if they were going to provide any supportive services that were going to be funded under the WIOA Title I grant, they could be recorded here. Or if there's any other services under the WIOA fund that were going to be WIOA funded, they could be recorded here. Next slide. So now you've seen a current WIOA registrant who had their IEP updated, and you've seen the demonstration of closing out the original registered apprentice that was funded through WIOA Title I. Then you've seen a demonstration of the service being opened of training paid by a non-WIOA funds, and then a demonstration of the add an additional episode of career planning case management being recorded. Next slide. If you have any questions about anything related to this PowerPoint, you can contact me. My email is james.potts@illinois.gov, or you can call me on my cell phone at 217-416-7097. And this PowerPoint, Dee will have it posted as a resource, and I can also email it out if anybody needs a copy of it.
I'll post it on the partner page.
All right, thanks, Dee. That's all I have for this one.
Okay, I'm trying to get out of the slideshow. my toolbar from my other pieces over the top of where I needed to be, so apologize for that. All right, we do have a comment in the chat. It says, I think Patrick, from Lucinda, I think Patrick had explained that some of the grantees are receiving non-WIOA funds, and any apprentices they recruit could be enrolled even if not WIOA eligible. And Patty, do you want to reply to that, or did you type that and you want me to just read it?
I typed in a response to that, and I'm taking that directly from the U.S. Department of Labor's off of a grants management document, so I hope I didn't fat finger anything there. But so participant, like what Dee showed at the very beginning, that is an individual who receives a grant-funded service after determination of eligibility and for whom the grantee will collect all relevant data for each individual for performance reporting purposes. These are direct recipient of grant-funded service. So those participants are full-blown participants using the funding. That's why it's treated how we're doing it with the intake. You need to do that eligibility check on them. You're doing your IEP service and you're assigning your apprenticeship services for them. And so all that information will be contained within the system from stem to stern. For those that are non-WIOA funded, but they're also impacted or have an attachment to or something to do with this apprenticeship funding, those are categorized as other individuals impacted. So who are individuals who receive benefit from the grant, but who do not receive grant-funded services that qualify them as participants. So other individuals impacted are included in the quarterly reporting for reporting to DOL. So these grantees that are working with other individuals impacted will be required to report these individuals on a quarterly basis, and you only have to upload limited information on the OII quarterly to satisfy the reporting. So you don't have to, if you have your OIIs, you're keeping track of them however you've normally kept track of them. Because we're not paying them directly with WIOA funding, we're not going to, you know, force somebody to put all this information into one of our systems. So, but they are countable in performance, and we want you to get that recognition and be able to put them into the system. So at that point, we're just going to have, we don't have it ready today, but that's going to be on a follow-up reporting technical assistance. It's just a form that you're going to be entering these people's names into and some other reportable information, and that'll download into the system, and it'll just be included in the quarterly reporting. So ask away anything you want to right now on that. I know this grant in particular, it seems to have its twists and turns, and we just I'm thankful for the questions, and we're really trying hard all to work together and get the system to be what it needs to be to get this launched and going. We definitely want it to evolve. We want it to be more connected to IWDS. Some of the things we can do quicker and easier than others, but we just want it to get to that point where you do have a single sign-on, or you are just clicking a button and you're sending your application information to IWDS as well. That's not going to happen this first iteration. We got to get this figured out and get things, you know, the general rules and terms worked out, and then we can get there together.
So one question we wanted to ask everyone is, how many names could you enter in the system right now for the case managed individuals?
I think that's as many as possible, right? Or Natasha? I mean, we have it set up right now. Right now it's as far as you can put your individual's names in there for full participant, and then you can go through those questions and eligibility determination. So you can get them in that far. And then the services part of it, they again are identical to what's in IWDS. So those that are familiar with IWDS understand what's been going on in that system the last few weeks is that we completely upgraded and updated and streamlined all the WIOA Title I services. So I wanted to make sure that those were in and tested, and everybody got a chance to look at them in IWDS and test the grounds and waters and give feedback. And so that is going to be the same services that'll show up now in the in this apprenticeship system once you get in there and start adding the services. So it's not going to be two different views. It's not going to be two different lists of services. But I didn't want to go, okay, I'm going to put them in IWDS and Illinois workNet and make you guys have to, those that are in both systems, try and digest and understand it looking at two different systems. I wanted to take at least a week or two and then say, here they are now in this system so that you can have a familiarity with them.
So Lucinda says, thank you, Patty. This is very helpful. I was just trying to help the grantees who aren't WIOA providers understand they won't be entering anything in IWDS. But if they have a potential apprentice who might be WIOA eligible, that they should connect with the WIOA provider to see if additional services might be available for the apprentice.
Exactly right. So they'd be co-enrolled.
Leverage those dollars. All right. We are at.
And then I guess the other thing, just quick, so those that are in the system, when the information is in IWDS, like what Jim was showing, what is then put in IWDS, when we do that, the sync to IWDS, when services are in there, and that kind of thing, then you're going to see everything that's in IWDS will show up in this system. So you'll see the full picture of everything that's going on with the co-enrollment of this person in this Illinois workNet system. But please feel free to like call me, email me, whatever you need to. I'm 100% available to talk and discuss any concerns or anything you have. I want to work through this, and I want this to be a successful system and ongoing, evolving, to be the best it can be for all of you guys. So appreciate it if you can just reach out to me. Thanks.
And I'm putting in my contact information so that if there is any concerns about the Illinois workNet part of this, I'm able to help you. I don't know too much about the grant details, and I definitely don't know about IWDS, but I will help you as much as I possibly can with the Apprenticeship Illinois portion in Illinois workNet. So with that, it is 3:01. I want to get you guys off of the phone. We will post this recording and have it available on the partner page as soon as I can get things all squared away with that and getting it updated and posted. Patty just put her email address in there. And Jim, are you willing, do you want to put your name and number in the chat as well, so that they can reach out to you about IWDS?
Sure.
All right. Any other questions, or can we get any thumbs ups or anything about cutting down the application process? All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.